Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission to order. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown.
Here.
Annie Adams. Here. Leonardo Kovas.
Here.
Kara Dudek. Here. Cynthia Hoyle. Present. Audrey Ishii. Here. Susan Jones. Jeff Marino. Craig Schunkweiler.
Here.
Nancy Westcott. Here. Lily Wilcock. Here. There's a quorum present.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? So for the methods of increasing, Annie's going to present? Okay.
Oh, minus you? Yeah.
Whoa, well, you'll be doing a lot of talking, hopefully.
Volunteered for that. I think I volunteered, Annie.
Okay. Okay. Approval of the minutes from previous meetings? It is on. Can you guys hear me out there? Hello, hello?
That's better.
Maybe they can turn it up or I'll talk louder or something. Okay. Approval of the minutes. Did we get minutes emailed to us?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a correction that Cynthia had, so for the July, and those
It's a very minor correction. I've got one. Is that the, yeah, I've got one. She gave me one earlier.
Okay, so we need to approve July and August then? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted and corrected.
I have a correction for August.
Okay.
I have on page 2. She added that Illinois Street looks nice and suggested that Busey Avenue be considered as a future project, and which is correct. I don't know how micro we should go on these corrections, but what I was saying was a Busey Avenue bikeway, a 3-mile bikeway between Florida to Carl would be wonderful, and it would serve the purpose of how people aren't really interested in. We're having a hard time creating bike infrastructure on Lincoln Avenue, and then it would serve that purpose. So I'm not sure if that's like a correction or if we just are going for the gist of what was on page 2. So that was my question.
Sounds like a correction, if you can summarize
Okay.
that in like a half a sentence or a sentence.
All right, I got it. Busey Avenue Bikeway, a 3-mile bike and pedestrian priority street from Florida to Carl.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Is that okay with any objections to that? Okay. If not, could we vote on the approval of the minutes for July and August? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries as corrected. Next, we have public input. We have some public today. Anybody want to talk about anything? Is this a planning class?
Yes, this is students from a planning class at the University of Illinois. One of the options was they could attend a meeting that looks at bicycling and walking. So welcome. We're glad you're here.
Welcome.
Yep,
Great.
thanks
Come
for coming.
back. We do this every month.
Yeah, we do this every month, and
great.
we always
Bring
have
some friends.
public input periods. So if anybody wants to say anything, it's their opportunity to let us know what they value. Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
just 2 little items I wanted to ask Craig about. Is this the spot to do that? Should I do that under?
Probably not the best spot. I don't know. Would it fit into any of the agenda items?
Yeah, I mean, because I have some.
Maybe announcements.
Yeah, that was my question, because I have some photos from the KRT trail that I just want to show. Is that an announcement, or is that
Yeah, it's not an announcement, but I can do it there.
Is that
It's a
an
question.
They're just some, it's more like, here are some new public resources that are available. They're just pictures of things we talked about.
Might be best to add it as a new business item.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's back up to approval of agenda and add a new business item D, comments on KRT.
Well, I have 2 questions about infrastructure. But I didn't think, it doesn't require action, so that of this body, so that's why I thought it was really more input than it was new business, but.
All right, let's call that public input. Go ahead, Cynthia.
I was curious about when they will be doing the final sweeping on some of the streets. For example, I bike on California a lot, and there's still some pretty deep piles of the composite material there, so I was curious about that. And then I had another question on the signal timing for the Kickapoo Trail at High Cross Road. If you arrive after the light is green going the same direction you are and you push the button, it didn't give us the signal to cross, and so it would make you wait through a whole cycle. And I think a lot of people are probably not going to do that. And you have a reasonable amount of right-turning traffic there, so I didn't know if that was signal timing. You might be able to take a look at it. Is that the state signal? Okay.
Yeah, so the state maintains that intersection, or they program the signals, but we maintain it as a city. So as I'm understanding, you're saying that basically when you push for the push button or the call, you're having to wait a whole cycle to get it. You're asking whether or not you can get it as soon as it comes up, or sooner than waiting.
Right, because there was quite a lot of time
Right.
that you could still cross, unless you were a very slow pedestrian.
Right.
I thought if it could start, maybe still provide that, but give you a shorter time for crossing. I don't know what their standards are, but I
Well,
thought
a
I
lot
would
of times
ask.
it depends on basically where they're at within, they call it the ring or the cycle. So as, if you've just missed it, then you do have to wait through the cycle to get it back again. There's really no way to preempt it, per se, but we can
Maybe
talk
they-
to IDOT and see if there's any
They could
adjustments.
extend the time period for
Right.
when you could still push it within the
Right.
cycle, because most of the people are going to be jogging or biking,
Right.
which are faster than, they probably have it, the full cycle is for pedestrians, and probably the slower pedestrians that are now the national standard,
Right.
would be my guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as the sweeping, it should have been done by now. The main sweeper broke down,
Oh,
and they have a backup sweeper, and it's not doing, it's really
dear.
not doing that great of a job. So
Okay.
we're waiting to get the main sweeper fixed, so that's
Okay.
why it's in the condition it is.
okay,
No, it's not intended to be left that way.
okay,
It's
all right.
just equipment issues.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, thanks. And to be official, Annie, can you make a motion to add that item D to the agenda, comments on KRT?
I'd like to make a motion to add comments on the KRT to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. All in favor of adding that item?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now we have new business, or unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. Okay, so we have new business. Selected crash intersection locations. Regional Planning Commission. Thanks for coming. We've been looking forward to this for several months.
I know.
Some people get excited by interesting things. Count us in.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Harshila Sardar. I'm the transportation engineer at Champaign County Regional Planning Commission. Today, I'm going to present to you about the traffic crash facts in Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy. And in this process, we also try to identify critical intersections in the study area. The crashes were obtained from IDOT, and this crash data is from 2011 to 2015. Let me give you an idea of the the study area. Like the gray area here is the MPA boundary, is the area within the MPA boundary, and within that, the colored region of Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy is the study area considered in this study. This is a crash trend of past 20 years, and it represents a summary of total number of crashes in Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy, the number of persons injured, and fatalities. From 2011 to 2015, there was an increase in the crashes, like the trend was increasing, except in 2013. An average of 5 fatalities per year was observed, and an average of 650 persons were injured. In case of Urbana, as you can see here, an average of 2 fatalities per year was observed, and the number of persons injured were approximately 215. This slide.
I know we don't want to interrupt too much, but can I note that in 2008 they changed the definition of what a crash is?
Yes.
From it had to, before it needed $500 worth of damage in order to be a crash, and now it needs $1,500. So that's why we saw it drop by a couple hundred crashes in that year.
Yes, I think that was in 2009.
2009. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
This is a distribution of fatal crashes in the study area. As you can see here, there are like 3 fatalities at the interchange of Interstate 74 and 57. There were a total of 7 pedestrian fatalities and 2 bicyclist fatalities. Along the University Avenue corridor, there were like 5 fatalities in the 5 year of crashes. In 5 years, and 3 fatalities in the University District area with 1 fatal pedestrian crash. Looking at the distribution of severe crash, here by severe I mean A injury type of crashes. As you can see, there are high number of A injury type of crashes in the downtown Champaign, University District, and the downtown Urbana area, and also along the major corridors like Lincoln Avenue, Neal Street, Prospect Avenue, and Mattis Avenue. Looking at, there were approximately like 6 A injury type of crashes, which was the highest at the intersection of Prospect Avenue and Bloomington Road here.
So,
Yeah.
can you clarify
Sure. The type A injury crashes is where after the crash, the person injured has to be taken to a hospital. So the injury type is that severe. Sure. Looking at the crash rates, the total crashes per year for Champaign, Urbana was lower than the Illinois state. Looking at the fatal crashes per BMT or the fatal crash rates for Champaign, Urbana was also lower than the Illinois state levels across the 5 years. While the A injury type of crash rates were higher for Champaign, Urbana than the Illinois state, except for in 2013. Looking at other crash factors, by day of the week, a high number of crashes were observed on Fridays, while lower number of crashes were observed during Sundays. Looking at time of the day, high number of crashes were observed in the PM peak time, that is approximately around 5 p.m., and lower number of crashes were observed like early in the morning around 4 a.m. Looking at the percentage distribution of crashes with respect to traffic control, almost 45% of the crashes occurred where there were no controls, while 33% occurred where there were at intersections like traffic signals or stop line, flashing light, etc. Looking at the distribution of collision type of crashes, highest of 29% of rear end type of crashes was observed, followed by the turning movement crashes, angular crashes, and fixed object type of crashes. Now, I tried to look at the distribution of these crashes, collision type of crashes. This is the heat map of rear end type of crashes. They were observed to be higher along the major corridors and also the intersection of the major corridors, especially here, which is a Prospect Avenue corridor. And its distribution is also high at the University District area here. The next is the turning movement type of crashes, again high along the major north-south corridors, the downtown Champaign area and the downtown Urbana area, and also some in the University District area. The next is angular type of crashes, which is high in downtown Champaign, Urbana, and also the University District area. Yes, which are really high in this area. And looking at the fixed object type of crashes, they are higher in the downtown Champaign area and also along the interstate region, especially at the interchanges, which are observed to be high density. Looking at the driver condition, one of the things we looked at was impaired driving. Almost 4% of the drivers that were involved in crashes were impaired. This is a distribution of impaired drivers that was involved in crashes by age. As you can see in the graph here, there were high number of impaired drivers that were involved in crashes below the age of, within the age of 20 to 24. And as can be anticipated, most of them must be students, so they are high in the University District area and also along the downtown Champaign area and the Urbana area.
It also kind of looks like that Prospect Bloomington Road area too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like some area in Bradley Avenue over here, and then also along the Springfield Avenue over here. So yeah.
Thank you.
Now, looking at the distribution of these impaired drivers by time of the day and the day and the week of the day, they were high in the Friday nights and Saturday nights, as can be anticipated, and they are distributed throughout the downtown Champaign area, University District, and downtown Urbana area. Yep, that's all I have here. Looking at the pedestrian crashes. This is a summary table of the pedestrian crashes for 5 years in City of Champaign, Village of Savoy, and City of Urbana. Like I mentioned earlier, total of 7 fatal pedestrian crashes with 2 in City of Champaign and 5 in City of Urbana. This is a distribution, high number along the University District area and also some area of Bradley Avenue corridor here and downtown Champaign and Urbana area too. When we looked at the pedestrian crashes by the age, high number of pedestrian crashes or the pedestrian in the age group of 20 to 24 is observed. And when we further looked at the percentage distribution of pedestrians by prior crash action, it was found that almost 25% of the pedestrians were crossing the intersection, and after that, I think is 8% where they were entering or leaving an unknown location. Like I mentioned, there were high number of crashes at intersections, pedestrian crashes as intersections. So this is a distribution of intersections. Each point is an intersection, and the size of the point represents the number of pedestrian crashes over there. So again, high number of intersection with pedestrian crashes in the University District area.
Yeah, really
And,
fast. Excuse me.
We were just told, could you speak into the mic? It'll come through a lot better.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So, so the high number of intersections with pedestrian crashes in the University District area. The highest of 4 pedestrian crashes at the intersection of Florida Avenue and Filer Road was observed. And along the Lincoln Avenue in the University District area, there were almost 15 pedestrian-related crashes. This is a heat map of the distribution of pedestrian crashes. Like we saw earlier, in the University District area, there are high density of pedestrian crashes, and some areas along the region. Excuse me. This map presents a distribution of bicyclist crashes. There are total of 2 fatal bicyclist crashes, and both of them in the City of Champaign. The red spot here, there are 2 of them here, which are both of them are near the interstates, or the exit or the entry of the interstates. And again, excuse me. a high number of bicyclist crashes at the University District area, and also along here, which is a Mattis Avenue corridor over here. Looking at the age distribution of these bicyclists, the age group of below 25 had high number of bicyclists which were involved in crashes. And looking at the percentage distribution of bicyclists by prior crash action, there were almost, just give me a minute.
Would it be possible to blow up that section? This is, since we're interested in bicycle and pedestrian stuff, the percentage of cyclists by prior crash action would be really helpful to see, if you can zoom in on that at all for us.
Oh, okay, sure, I can try.
Can I just ask for a definition of a crash? Because I'm trying to think if it's, does 1500, like if a car hits a pedestrian, well, now we're looking at cyclists, but if a car hits a pedestrian and the car isn't injured, or the car driver isn't injured, but the pedestrian goes and pays a copay at the emergency room, that's not a crash, right?
It is.
Okay, so how is the 1500, that's what I'm trying to figure out, like where do you come up, where's the 1500? How is that number calculated, or what means a crash is what I'm trying to figure out.
So from what I understand is it includes also the injury, if the person is sent to a hospital, and the cost of that, if it is higher than 1,500. That's why most of the injuries, like in pedestrian and bicyclist crashes, most of them are injured, like there are no property damage type of crashes, or there are hardly any.
And so if the pedestrian, if the police are called, the pedestrian is not injured enough to go to the hospital, is it then not reported?
I'm not sure.
The
That's
city would
something
have
we
it.
should-
I don't
we
know
should
what,
ask about. It might not be included in this data, but I encourage people to report them whether they're injured or not. So it'd be
Mhm.
interesting to know.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Okay.
Yeah, that helps, thanks. And who, is there a national standard for coming up with these prior actions? Or like that category, other is pretty big. Do we have capability to add actions, or is this like a national standard that has to fit into one of those categories?
I'm not sure if there's a national standard, but IDOT have
State.
So this is the state.
these criterias for the crashes.
The state recommends on the form, and then the form is used to
Exactly.
report by all police departments.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a standardized form
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
certain, it has on the backside, maybe we should bring it sometime and you can see a copy of it. But it has, they list off, is it rain, is it, snow, is it, what were the actions they were doing, things like that. Sometimes though, because we get the forms too, or have access to them, they're not fully complete too. So we just need to keep that in mind.
We
And the
could
prior-
lobby, go ahead.
The prior crash action always refers to what the cyclist was doing?
Yes, in this case it is.
But
I
they-
mean, in this,
The
for this-
bicyclist is
So there's no way to tell, say, if it was a right hook, where a car turns right in front of a cyclist? Because the cyclist, I mean, all these assume the cyclist did something wrong. It looks, well, they kind of
No,
No, there's
assume that.
prior action by drivers too.
Yeah,
But-
in this case, this is a prior action by the bicyclist, what they were doing, when the bicyclist crash occurred.
Okay, and that's
Yeah.
just when you selected to make the.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Can you see, like with the car crashes, can you see if these were angles or rear ends or what type of crash it was?
Yes, I can see that. Yeah. You mean as the overall?
In particular for the bicycle crashes?
Yes, I can see that, but I don't have the data right
Okay.
now with me.
Any other questions on this slide? Should we let her continue? Okay, thanks.
Sure. So, so the highest of 19% of the bicyclists were riding with the traffic, and followed by the 8% which were crossing against the signal and riding against the traffic, again 8% over here.
But 16% were crossing with the signal when they were hit.
Yes,
that's-
that's right, yeah,
Okay.
16%, I didn't see that.
Probably a few. few right hooks.
What's included in the 38% other?
Apart from these, no. Like some of them were unknown, or some of them did not have any specific information, or they were just like 0.1% or something. That's why they are then included in others.
One thing when I was working on this, doing a report like this for another city, is that we asked them to start including when people rode off of a sidewalk, because we had, their highest crash rate was children around schools at the end of school day. And I think they talked to the state folks and had added into the form at the state level. So if there's a category that we feel should be assessed, of course you don't always know because the victim can't always tell you. So there are some crashes like that that happen, you suspect may be happening, but the data, we don't have a way to collect it on the form.
Right. I would note that, like the report that RPC is presenting today, in the end, what it does is it basically gives you a comparison across the board of corridors and intersections. When we, and there's several intersections that rise to the top of concern. At that point, though, when the engineering division takes over, we do a drill down. So we have access to the state police, the crash database. And then what we do at that point, though, is we collect all of the crashes for a 5-year period. So we go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and we, at that point, read every narrative. So we don't, and I found through my career that it's good, the information that's reported is good to give you sort of an apples-to-apples comparison, but there's a lot of interpretation on what is an angle or what is, certain types of crashes. So what we do is look at the narrative. The narrative that is filled out on the back tells you a lot. And then we'll then look for trends, and we may reclassify a crash just for our engineering purposes to see if there's trends that need to be corrected.
Okay. So this is a distribution of intersections with bicyclist crashes. Each point here too is an intersection, and the size of the point represents the number of bicyclist crashes over there. The highest of 4 bicyclist crashes were observed at the intersection of Prospect Avenue and Bradley Avenue. A distribution of intersection with bicyclist crashes again in the University District area, and yes, over here too. This is a heat map with bicyclist crashes, again in the University District area, that there are a lot of bicyclist crashes and some major corridor intersections too, and downtown Urbana area too.
Which was the highest bicyclist crash intersection in Urbana? It
Uh,
looked like it was the university and something.
Yeah, I can. Maybe it's, yeah, I'm not sure exactly which intersection is that, but I can look into it and get back. Yeah. Looks like it's 3 where it occurred. Yeah. This is a distribution of heavy vehicle crashes and injuries by roadway type. High number of heavy vehicle crashes along the interstates, especially along the interchanges, and also along the major corridors like Mattis Avenue, Prospect Avenue, Neal Street, and also along the University District area, especially this area of Springfield, which is east of Neal Street, I think. There were 2 fatal type of crashes with heavy vehicle crashes.
This is including buses, like CUMTD?
No, it's not including buses.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a distribution of the heavy vehicle crashes at the interchanges, since high number of crashes were observed at the interchanges. For example, here along the interstate of I-74 and 57, there are a cluster of heavy vehicle crashes over here, and similarly over here too. Next is the corridor analysis. Over here, we considered all the major corridors along east, west, and north-south direction, just to study their trends. And so the major or the highest number of crashes occurred in 5 years was University Avenue, and also a high number of fatalities occurred along the University Avenue corridor. In the north-south direction, Prospect Avenue had the highest number of crashes, and Mattis Avenue had the highest number of injuries, while High Cross Road and Florida Kirby Avenue had highest number of injury to crash ratios. So this is a summary of the crashes along the major corridors. Now, in the report, each of these corridors were analyzed in terms of various crash factors. A detailed location of pedestrian bike crashes are present. The fatal crashes are present, and also other information for each of these 11 corridors mentioned earlier. Then we also did intersection analysis. In this section, we tried to analyze the critical intersection. This is a methodology to select the high intersection crashes, and this is similar to the skill in the previous report. So first, all the intersections were divided into signalized and unsignalized, and for each of these, crash frequency, crash rate, and crash severity was calculated. Index value was given based on how far it is from its mean, and then all of these were combined to give a priority index value. So higher the index value, higher is the priority given to them. And then again, they were divided into volumes, class A, B, and C, for both the groups. So looking at first the high signalized intersections, the first 4 are the very high priority level, and the one in Urbana is Lincoln Avenue and University Avenue intersection. The next one is Cunningham Avenue and University Avenue in Urbana, which was given as high priority level, and medium priority level was given to McCullough Street and University Avenue. Next is the list of unsignalized intersections. The first 2 are given as very high priority, while in case of Urbana, high priority level was given to Lincoln Avenue and Ohio Street intersection, Orchard Street and Pennsylvania Avenue intersection, Ray Street and Florida Avenue intersection, and Smith Road and Main Street intersection. So these are the list of unsignalized intersection, and this is what I have for you. Let me know if you have any questions. This is my contact information.
Any questions? Audrey?
Harshala, do you have some preliminary statistics for 2016?
I do not have.
The
I
fatality
just
rate?
have the rough numbers, like total number of pedestrian and bicyclist crashes, but I do not have
An
in-depth.
analysis?
Yeah, in-depth
Are
analysis.
we still at about 1 per year for 2016, or?
It's almost similar. Like there were almost, I think. So in 2016, in the skill jurisdiction, that is Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy region, there were like 47 pedestrian crashes and 44 bicyclist crashes. 7 of them were fatal pedestrian crashes and 2 bicyclist fatal crashes.
In just 1 year?
Yes, in 2016.
That was
That's
for Champaign and Urbana?
And
Yes.
Savoy?
And
The
Savoy.
entire area? Okay.
Yes.
And what was it for, do you know what it was for Urbana?
I do not have right now, but I can get back to you on that.
Yes, Cynthia?
A comment first. I would like to note that the city made a big effort to have a roundabout installed at Florida and Philo when we were redoing that signal, which would have probably have resulted in that intersection not being one of our highest crash intersections. And so I think that's information that would be helpful for the city council to have, that, you know, that intersection is not as safe with the signal as it would have been with a roundabout. And that our high crash quarters, as we saw, are Lincoln and University, and we do have some improvements happening on both of those roads that we've done safety studies, so that we were doing. And I wanted to ask about the turning crashes in downtown Urbana, because when the road was redone and the new signals were put in, we used to have no right turn on red at those intersections. And I wonder whether it's possible for us to look and see how many of the crashes at the intersections of Race and Main and Broadway and Main were right turn crashes. Because if that were the case, maybe we could revisit that. But if it's not right turn crashes, then, you know, it won't do any good to put the signs back up. So I don't know whether it's possible for you to pull that out for us. But if we could, I think that might be helpful for us. And one other question that's related to this is I was digging rather deeply, and I could not find on your website the bicycle commute rates. I kept finding your crash data. And I was wondering, do we have that for the most recent ACS? Because once again, Champaign-Urbana is nowhere to be seen in the listings of the highest commute by bike communities, and Urbana gets shortchanged on that because we get lumped in with the metro area. And so if it's on in your data port somewhere, if you guys could tell us how to find it, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm not sure if Gabe can answer that.
I think the league only publishes cities above
No.
85,000 or 50,000 or something.
Well, they did metro areas, and I know our metro area commute rate was higher than some of the cities that they had listed in there for cities up to 150,000. Yeah, and I don't know, I was a little curious and not too happy that we weren't shown there.
It's not. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I will look into that. I don't know if that information is on our data portal or website, but I will look into that because that might be something that's just on ACS, but I'll double check. And then we have also used the PABS numbers, the Pedestrian and Bicycle Survey, for Urbana for commuting rates, which I know might be a little different than other
true.
areas, but
Okay.
yeah, I'll look into that.
Thanks.
Also on the University Avenue improvements, I don't know if we talked about it here, but it's for sure that speed limit's going to be reduced to 30 miles per hour. Is that right, Craig?
That's the last that I heard.
Okay. So last we heard is they are going to reduce the speed limit to 30 for that stretch, and that was one of the things we were really pushing for.
Lincoln's now 25.
And Lincoln is 25 now.
South of Nevada,
Um,
Pennsylvania.
Any other questions? On the, you gave us that 4% impaired drivers figure. I wondered if you had looked at the impaired walking and pedal cyclists and pedestrians, especially in the more severe injuries.
I haven't actually looked at that.
Okay.
And I guess that's because it did not stand out from the data. In terms of impaired drivers, there are high possibility of injuries. That is why it stands out. But I can look into that if there were impaired pedestrian and bicyclist.
Okay. I think for the national figures anyway, the cyclist deaths were definitely higher than that as far as the impaired cyclists go. I don't know about the pedestrians. Any other questions? Annie?
I just have one question. Did pedestrians or cyclists cause any fatalities, or did they cause any severe accidents? Or was it all was it all people driving vehicles causing accidents?
It makes more sense to me saying that if there is a pedestrian and bicyclist crash, there is a high possibility that a pedestrian and bicyclist suffers the higher severity than a person in a car. So when I'm saying that, for example, here, let me go to pedestrians. For example, in this table, if you see just in city of Champaign, there are 113 crashes as pedestrian crashes, and the total injuries is 111. So this means that the pedestrian would have undergone that injury rather than the car, the person in the car. Does that make sense to you?
I think the answer, Annie, is that nobody was run over and seriously hurt by a pedestrian or a bicyclist.
Okay, thank you.
So I noticed there that it looks like over the 5-year period, sorry. It looks like over the 5-year period, the pedestrian fatalities are about 7, and you said in 2016 there were 7 pedestrian fatalities. That seems like a tremendous jump in the rate of pedestrian fatalities. What happened in 2016?
Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
It's like 5 times.
Yeah.
Kind of shocking.
Yep. So, yeah, you are right. I do not have actually the detailed about those fatal crashes of pedestrian and bicyclists.
And then bicyclists, I think similarly, right? You had 2 cyclists over 5 years, then there were 2 in 2016. So again, we're looking at a 5-fold increase in
Yep.
1 year.
Yep.
Unless it's been a constant trend and it just was continuing, I don't know. But it looks like, at least over the average, it's a tremendous increase in direct contradiction to the work of Urbana BPAC, I might add.
Well, they might not be in Urbana. That was for Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy. So we don't know the location of the crashes
I
for
think Urbana
2016.
pretty well falls. in
Urbana
line
did have a
from what I
number
saw.
of pedestrian crashes on University.
Yeah.
We did have a problem
Well, I
there.
mean, of course, if you get more bicyclists and pedestrians out there are going to be more fatalities. And that might, maybe as a percentage, it's actually smaller. We don't know.
Actually, bicycle crashes, fatalities tend to go down with the increase in bicycling.
Well, as a rate, but do the actual absolute numbers go down?
Some of the data I looked at, yes, the number actually did decline, but I was just thinking of Portland on that one. I haven't looked at it nationally, so. Will we be able to get a copy of the report? Is it posted yet?
It is posted
Okay.
online, yes.
Yay. Good data.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, next is Bike at Illinois, Lily.
So glad so many students are here, too. It's great. Let me pull this up. So, really fast, I am showing you guys.
You should introduce yourself again.
Yes, I am Lily Wilcock. I am the active transportation coordinator at the university, and I do a lot with advocating for and programming and infrastructure for bicycle, pedestrian, and transit. Woo! One of the things that we've always had a problem at the university is communication. There's a lot of information silos in an organization so large and so diverse with what different departments do. And our students are in a special category unto itself in the communication trends. And then we also have staff, faculty, and the community at large, which also are, as far as cycling is concerned, are very much considered a part of our environment. So one thing that the university has been able to do with the help of the Student Fee Advisory Committee and the student-initiated infrastructure and programming bicycle fee is actually institute an easy, friendly website to get bicycle resources across campus that has been launched with fairly good response and information. I did hear from one student today saying, "Oh, I've never heard of that," and he is fairly engaged. So there's still more work to be done. But we have about 400, 500 website views a day, so that's pretty good for a brand new site. So here is Bike at Illinois. It is mobile friendly, which is the first time in my department we've ever done something like that. So kind of looks like a phone. Oftentimes when you pull it up to on your phone, this is just like a static image to make it a little bit easier. Are you new to biking in Illinois? The priorities of this website was to really engage people who are curious, they want to know more. And I would say with my time at the university, the vast majority of people that I met were interested but concerned, and they had these really basic questions that were not getting answered. So this is very high-level bicycling information that is being provided front and center on this website. And there's a little bit inside the website for people who want to dig in a little bit deeper. So we have a getting started guide. We really promote registering your bicycle because I find that registration your bicycle is required, but it's also something that people don't know about it until it's too late and they're finding out the hard way that they should have registered their bicycle when they are trying to prove that it was their bicycle that was lost or stolen or get their bicycle back. And we have bicycle storage lockers at warehouses that fill up in the hundreds on campus. And both Champaign and Urbana also have evidence lockers for their police that fill up very fast with just all these unregistered bicycles. We would love to get them back in the hands of their owners. So we were really promoting that. It's something that the university does for free for everybody except for dockless bike share companies. They just have to pay me. It's fine. We have a bike map. It's definitely version 1.3. It kind of feels like that. But it's got quite a few good resources that a lot of things, mind you, if you've ever volunteered for the bicycle census, a lot of those resources can be found in are on display by providing a easy source of lots of information. So we've got a lot of paths and trails. All the university information in here is pretty cool, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to go straight to university information because I'm proud of it. But we got bike centers. This screen is, the resolution's a little huge, so it's hard to see, but you can easily open up a legend to see. But there is bicycle repair stations, there are bike shops, there are dangerous intersections from the paper map. There's still a lot more that needs to be done, like routing. We get into a little bit more tricky things with university resources for that. But we're working through it, and we're always up for comments. Back to here. Yeah, isn't that cute? I like that. What? We're trying very hard, even though this is, you can see it's F&S, Facilities and Services at the University. We're trying really hard to not take a step back and not brand it, this is the university. This is trying to be just a friendly resource for bicycle information. Yes, it is the university, but it's okay. It's great. Here's the chancellor. There's me. Annie is also on here. Leo Kovis is, that's your hand. On normal, most resolution computers, that is visible. So we've got registration, getting a bicycle, fixing your bike, and campus bike rules. These are the four main things that people really ask me about. How to get started. And we did a lot of interviews with people across campus. We did interviews with people across the community. We asked them what are their big concerns, what would they want to see, and taking those interviews, and we devised several profiles of people that we really wanted to meet those needs. But with it being a resource website, we do have things like this usually works. Oh, events. Hey, light the nights this week. You all are coming, right? Okay, well, I don't know why that's not. I've never seen it not work. It's weird. I'm a little more suspicious of this browser than I am of the website, but.
Do you have a link to your bike box video there somewhere? Or
That is on the City of Urbana's YouTube page. It's super fabulous. If you haven't seen it, you totally should. And MTD has one, which is very funny, terribly funny. It's great to laugh at. It's very good. That was the point. I think we should all get together and make one on how to park a dockless bike. I think that would be really fun. Maybe I'm just interested in that. Okay, so this works just fine in this browser. So we've got safe riding tips, rules of the road, safety checklists. This is something I hope that BPAC really enjoys. Bicycle classes, and you can inquire or request classes and information. There's things that I regularly do on campus, which is bike commuting, lunch and learns, winter bicycling. We have one coming up at Campus Rec. Campus Bicycle Resource Tour, that's something I've done several times for various different groups and departments. But then we have things that Cynthia works on with MTD, and I am an LCI, and there's several other LCIs in the community. And occasionally we get, and honestly, more often than not these days, we get things like learn how to ride for adults. We get these requests. So here's an actual place online for people to request these things. The biggest thing is engagement. And Annie, you're going to talk a little bit more about engagement for BPAC, but we want to see safety and to be as more of an engagement piece and less of a long lecture. Reroutes and detours. It currently just goes straight to our closures, but it's cool that you can get straight to that without having to navigate the FNS website, which will not show up on your phone. And you can also dig a little bit deeper into resources, like checking out our ICAP portal, which is exhaustive. It's like the Wikipedia of everything sustainable at the university. It's an impressively large website and document. And then you've also have an embedded resource of the campus bike plan. Bike parking. And the shockingly large amount of people who I engage in every day in trying to make campus a more bike-friendly place. And more information about the Campus Bike Center and events, and clubs and organizations. So,
Lily, are you the only employee in charge of everyone who bikes and walks and takes transit on that campus?
Yes. But hear me out. There are a lot of really exciting things going on that other roles people are stepping up in their roles to do things. So we currently have a new director of parking at the university. And he is very aware of TDM, Transportation Demand Management, and commuter programs. And so he's really stepping up and encouraging biking and transit over the next couple of years. He'll be working in his department to do some really great commuter programs with me for parking. Because car parking is very closely tied to how much you're really encouraging biking, walking, and transit. And then we also, too, have Stacy DeLorenzo. She does a lot of work with MCOR project on campus. She wears a couple of hats in our office, but she is the Transportation Demand Management Coordinator, and so she is a really great resource as well for more of the engineering side. Good question.
On New Student Week, I emailed you a picture of a large piece of equipment on the bike path next to Cersei that wasn't really being used. I wondered if it could be moved, and I noticed it was moved like the next day. Did you do that, or did it just happen that way?
I looked into it. They felt really bad that happened. So that large piece of equipment that wasn't really being used was broken. So they had to wait for a part, and then the part got delayed. So it wasn't getting used because it was broken and parked on a path.
A really busy one, too. For
A very busy path in not a very good area. So they did not feel very good about it. And actually, that department just paid a lot of money to fix that path. They were one of the major financial contributors. The bike fee in my office did the part leading up to it, so just east of that area. But their department with grounds did all the area closer to Allen Hall and Cersei. So And I will tell you right now that bike paths on campus cost a lot, like a lot. So they did not feel terribly great that they had that large piece of equipment parked there for a while. But as soon as they got the part, they were able to do the steam tunnel work that they were working on and get out of there.
Okay, well, thanks for your help on that.
Anytime.
Any questions for Lily?
Yeah, I guess that's the only other yeah, that would be the only, it's interesting that he asked that question, because there is really no place on here for community, and like, for someone to say, there's someone parked on the Green Street bike lane, can I ride my bike
Yeah.
through a crosswalk? Can I, like, you know, like, there's no, like, way to, not that you have time to deal with all that, but you're dealing with all of it because we're sending you emails
Oh, I
about
do.
things like that.
Yeah. So there is FNS's email and phone number. And as soon as you call that is our service office. And anytime there's anything related to bikes, it goes straight to me at all hours of the day. But we also too, the About has my information on it. I don't know if Getting Started does. Register Your Bike definitely has my information on it. So there are a couple of different places. Also, I think the class one had, let's find out. No, it just says MTD. But, oh yeah, these classes are more intensive. Feel free to email Lily Wilcock for more questions. I can definitely make my presence more there. There was a couple of moments in making this website where I was like, this feels like a little bit of too much of me. Like, I wasn't super fond of this image right here. Like, oh, great, it's another Lily's doing stuff with the chancellor.
I mean, you can, it doesn't
but
have to be Lily.
It's such a good photo of this guy that I was like,
Yeah.
well, he likes bike lights.
Right, I didn't even realize it was you.
Yeah. It's a little bit more clear when you see it on a normal resolution.
But it can also just be at, you know, it doesn't have to be your, it can just be general, because we got, I got an, as you know, I got an email from someone saying, it appears to me that you're the person in charge of bikes in Urbana. And then I sent that email to, I believe you. I
Which is
CC'd
funny,
you
because I
and-
went to college with that guy in Chicago.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Isn't
yeah.
that, what a small town.
That's
oh my goodness.
fantastic. Yeah. So they, but
Yeah,
but it was more
one of
like
those.
that, like that feeling of like he looked like he was like, I'm trying to figure this out, who to
Yeah.
contact about this. And so it doesn't have to be contact Lily Wilcox. It can be contact Bike at Illinois,
Yeah.
and then it just goes to the Bike at Illinois, and once a week you kind of try.
So
to
we do have a
figure
bike at Illinois. Bike at illinois.edu, and it does get email traffic. I think a lot of people who are going through the FNS website, that's what's plastered all over that. We are kind of having that problem, and I really appreciate that comment, because for bike share, we have a lot of comments just, hey, is this thing good or bad or whatever, I don't know. People just wanting assurance that the bikes where they are parked is okay. And I haven't got any complaints, which is really cool. I'm knocking on wood, though. So we, despite what someone on Reddit said today, whatever.
Well, at our meeting I was at today, the city had gotten City of Champaign had gotten a few calls.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were parked.
Well, I've gotten a lot of, hey, where do these go? So
there
that's,
was, we don't
it's
want the
been
bikes
just an
in front of our
education
business
for
call.
me. Yeah. I classify that as not as a complaint, but as an education. Like,
Is there
oh, they
is
go
there an
here.
official FAQ or anything about where to put your bike share bike?
There is, yeah, absolutely. And that is actually, it is in the Getting Started guide via ride information, and then there's, unfortunately, that is a little bit buried. You have to go to a blog where we had an FAQ, fairly extensive, about.
So this morning at the meeting, it was Safe Routes to School meeting, the City of Champaign said that it is legal to park a bike next to the curb in the street.
Yeah.
That is clearly legal in the City of Champaign, but they were still trying to verify whether that is legal in the City of Urbana, and we
Right.
did not have the answer
It's
to
up
that.
to the
That
public-
is actually
It's
a
up to the public works director is the way the council left it. So
Uh-huh.
you'd have to-
So that's a really interesting thing that I have seen on university campus. Today I talked to someone at university's public safety. She said someone parked a bicycle in a car parking spot, which is okay in Champaign and Urbana if it's free for a car. I mean, you don't need a rack to lock this bike. So. But, you know, obviously on campus that causes so many other issues. And so there is that jurisdiction problem that will need to be fixed. We can't necessarily maintain reasonably 3 different sets of rules for one program and expect everybody to really, when we have such a transitory young crowd, I'd rather spend more resources educating on how to use the bikes and how to bike safely for bike share users. So we're going to have to, because that is really interesting about Champaign. Champaign's had that rule forever, for maybe 100 years or something, you know. Horse and buggy style, like long time they've had that
If
rule.
you could
So
send the FAQ to us, to me, and then I could share it with Bill Gray, and
Yeah.
he could update it for Urbana or make any, you know, and so we could have that on our website too.
yeah, and just to
Try
let you
make it
know, as far
similar
as university,
possible.
far as the university is concerned, we probably have the strictest rules, and it's that you have to leave it at a bike rack. Certainly, all of us have seen bicycles not at the bike rack on campus, but they are all in places where people are not locking their regular bicycles at the bike rack. Every single one of them. Everywhere where I've seen them, I've also seen privately owned bicycles locked right next to them. So they're putting them where bikes go. So people are being fairly respectful in one way, and also not following the rules in another too. So all opportunities for education.
Any other questions for Lily? Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Keep spreading the good word. Yes.
Okay, Annie, you're up. Methods for increasing attendance and public input at BPEC meetings, and why we want that.
Why, really?
Besides sending invitations to planning department classes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the end of year thank you party for commissioners. At Bill's house. I thought it was at Craig's house. All right, so looks a little wacky here. Looks like it's all stretched out, but I think we can all work with that. So I was asked to talk on increasing attendance and public input at BPAC, and I kind of want to just go through these slides fairly quickly and sort of give a general overview and then have a discussion. So I'm going to talk about something that I'm good at, and we can then go from there. So as far as I can tell, what I think we're interested in is engaging our current stakeholders and discovering new stakeholders. And methods that I have found useful for doing these types of things, such as community building, social engagement, and increasing community pride. These are really warped. So I did Urbana First Fridays, and one of our concepts was basically to set a tone for what Urbana First Fridays were and kind of begin to tell the narrative and the story of a city and what the city was and what kind of people were in the city and what the people in the city liked doing. And so I came up with this Imbibe Urbana logo. I came up with an Urbana First Friday logo. And you'll begin to see that you use something like that and then you continue to repeat it, and you kind of have a narrative in the background of the story you're trying to tell. So if you look at these images, you would say, well, I think people in these cities sort of like to bike. It seems like they like to do public gatherings on the street. It seems like they might like art. Mistletoe Market, oh, that seems kind of fun. Maybe that's some like holiday thing. There's some prairie stuff, you know. So it was you're setting a tone. The other thing we did was I created a map, and on that map it would be, here are all the things that are happening during the Urbana First Friday, and this is where you can find these events happening. And we used short, snappy information, and it was a very it was the tone was very welcoming. There was a lot of, we really focused on free, easy, fun, very low-key event, and it was just sort of a community gathering. And then meanwhile, what we would do on social media is you would reiterate your posters for Urbana First Friday, and then you would, on social media, you always try to have a little fun. So we came up with street chickens. So if you do live in Urbana, you will frequently see chickens crossing the street. So that was, our street chickens was sort of a funny thing for us. So where to go, what to do. And then, again, this is a lot of, these are photos from Instagram. So it would show pictures of what people did on First Fridays. So if you're trying to have an event, you're trying to get people to come to your event, you need to make people feel comfortable. So when they come to the event, they know what to expect. They feel like they're not going to be the only person there. And that what's going to happen is going to be fun and interesting. So people throwing fire on the street, that's pretty interesting to people. A jazz band, people belly dancing. And then again, in the lower left-hand corner, that's actually the Urbana Marathon, not the Urbana Marathon, the Christie Clinic. Yeah, thank you, the Illinois Marathon. That's the Illinois Marathon, but again, it's reiterating this concept of the streets are for people and they're shared streets, and we as a community, this is one way we celebrate. And so it sort of is trying to increase that engagement, because people told us, they said, no one's ever in downtown Urbana. Is there any way you can get people to come to downtown Urbana and cheer us on during the marathon? And we were like, sure. And so we came up with this pop-up marathon concept for cheering, and there was that. A real quick thing that I'll go through is specifically, like, one event we did was called Love for All. So we branded the event Love for All. It's a poetry crawl, and it happens during Urbana First Fridays. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. Love for All, poetry crawl, Urbana First Fridays. And it takes a lot to kind of get down to these concepts. But it's very important for messaging to keep things real simple. By that point, we had a logo for downtown Urbana. And then we also had, Imbibe Urbana had a tagline, local social culture starts here. And then we did social media posts based on that. So we had, you would, do the Love for All poetry crawl. You'd throw that on Instagram. You would show the colors from Wise Camp of us getting the screen print ready to go. You would show a neighbor's house that has something similar going on, and then the frames where the poetry was going to be displayed. And then you show the actual event. So these are screen prints of the Love for All. There is the amazing Kristen Walters in the lower left, the woman I schemed with on all these things. And then you could later on, like, put up Love for All during, like, Valentine's Day and be crazy for you and things like that. And so currently I work for the graduate college, and one question people always have for the graduate college is, what does the graduate college do? So we really focused our efforts on trying to make sure people understood what we do in a really simple way. No one's ever going to understand everything you do, but you have to decide what your narrative's going to be and what you're going to share and how you're going to let people know we have services and we're here to help, and we're really glad you're here. And so those are sort of the themes that we go with. So Success Toolkit for grad students, this is over 30 workshops that we'll be holding. So this is our homepage. This is our Facebook account. And of course, we'll have Alma at the top. And then we'll again reiterate that we have these workshops that are right for you. And then we also will be doing place. So it's important to always kind of emphasize place. So like in Lily's, like we saw on Lily's website, that's why they had a lot of pictures of this is what it's like to bike, this is what it looks like to bike, this is how it feels to bike. Pictures are extremely important in telling a narrative. This is the Graduate College's Instagram account. So full disclosure, the Japan House one, I've been going for runs early Sunday mornings. I got that picture before anyone showed up. You know, and like there's a baby squirrel on here that I found in a little box. And so it's a lot of just like, you just sort of decide, like, this is the narrative I'm going to tell, and this is how I'm going to talk about it. And so the next thing that you're beginning to see is this thing called Research Live. That's one of our first major events. It happens during Graduate Student Appreciation Week, so that's where we start turning our attentions to, is really focusing on promoting Research Live and Graduate Student Appreciation Week. And that happened after Welcome Week, the welcome reception we had. And then this is Twitter, and Twitter, again, very similar messaging. One thing that we really do is Twitter is news, Facebook is fun, Instagram is beautiful. So that's like a real simple way to keep your social media like in line. Now, this is a local cycling group has put this Facebook page together. It's the Champaign-Urbana Cyclists. And they do a really good job with promoting local events, talking about local events, and they also share international things that are going on, so roundabouts, or an article about women likely prefer separate bike infrastructure, or London's bike superhighway, or, ooh, the electric scooters are coming. Here are roundabouts. So this is a local page. I think Cynthia Hoyle might be able to fill us in more on the thought process behind this. So methods that I have found useful is you constantly review what's working, and are people responding to what you're doing? Does what you're doing work? Was it useful? If it was not useful, why not? What did not work? So you're constantly, the thing about working in communications in this method is you're constantly revising, and you're repeating, but you're revising and repeating and figuring it out. So you're constantly making adjustments and seeing, did this work? Did this not work? Are people interested in this? Do they like this? Do they not like this? Because you're always trying to effectively communicate. So I think for BPAC, a few themes that we could use if we were to be on social media would be education, resources, local events. The feel would be healthy streets, active travel for all, safe street systems, accessible to everyone. And one of the reasons the city might be interested in doing something like this is people who are considering, should I buy a house in Champaign? Should I buy a house in Urbana? You're going to be looking at the streets. You're going to be looking at the schools. You're going to be trying to figure out what's the easiest way for me to get around. So it's also a way to promote things that the city of Urbana has built up over all these years. And this is a slide from the 2016 BPAC Year in Review, where we spoke about trying to increase community engagement and develop the communication strategies showcasing the city of Urbana's bike and pedestrian infrastructure, talking about community pride around Urbana as the first gold level bicycle friendly community. We want to be platinum level by 2026, create and maintain a city of Urbana BPAC Facebook page, possibly an email newsletter. The email newsletters are very effective. I didn't even go into that. Share community, active living events and meetings, develop a People on Pavement event. And then again, this is from the 2016 BPAC Year in Review. Work with city staff to increase community engagement with events and digital communication strategies. Promote year-round inclusive and engaging bicycling and walking events for all backgrounds and ages 8 to 80, such as group walks, group bicycle rides, bike to work day, walk and roll to school day, bike month, walk with the mayors. And then we also recommended in the 2016 BPAC Year in Review that it was a high priority that the city of Urbana pool resources with local agencies to fund a full-time bicycle and pedestrian coordinator to help ensure the plan's implementation and our platinum level friendly community status by 2026. And I do know I was going to include here pictures from the Urbana Public Arts Commission, which does have a Facebook page, and they do have an Instagram page, but they also have one full-time person devoted to talking about arts in the city of Urbana. So that is why it's easy for them to do, because as you can see, one of the reasons I wanted to show you all these previous slides, because it's easy to say we should just do this, but anyone who's done social media or done email newsletters or done any of these things, you understand it is a lot of work. And you do have to have a consistent narrative and story that you're trying to tell, you don't want it to just seem slapdash, and now I'm saying this, and now I'm saying that, and you want it to be very clear of what you're trying to share. So that's it. And so those are my questions, and I know we talked about for community engagement was possibly having like one BPAC a year at a local bar, or so I think, I mean, so it's sort of a massively broad topic, which is why I sort of wanted to like laser focus in on this. And I'm not sure, Audrey, if I answered your questions that you had or if I presented properly, but that was kind of where I was at with it, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Annie?
That was fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah, Annie, that looked great. I wonder if there's a way for us to reach out to people who are at the First Friday. So maybe have a short paper survey or like a suggestion box or.
So I have some bad news for you.
Yeah.
I no longer do First Fridays, and nor does Kristen. Kristen now works for public radio. She has a full-time job there, and I have a full-time job at the Graduate College. There are other people doing it. But I can also tell you is that Kristen is doing an amazing workshop Thursday, October 5th, 5 to 6 p.m. at the YMCA, and the workshop is Attract Supporters Through Storytelling, How to Tell the Story of Your Mission and Values. And I really wanted to prep that for anyone who's working in community activism. I highly recommend going to that. She is really smart about this stuff. So yes, the Urbana First Friday people, I'm sure, could be interested in collecting information on that.
So I have a question. Could we work with the city's communications person to do a BPAC Facebook page where we do provide information on various things that we have done, maybe put some of the presentations up there from our meetings. It wouldn't have to be something that we do on a daily basis, but it would at least give us another avenue for getting, for example, the next meeting, daytime, blah, blah, link to agenda or something like that. Is that a possibility that we could take a look at?
Yeah, I could ask the mayor about that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, we have the web page, but a Facebook page probably would get more response. I kind of would want to avoid competing or duplicating things that other groups locally are already doing.
Nobody's posting our agendas.
Not
or
our
stuff
agendas,
that we
no.
do at our meetings. I'm Champaign Urbana Cyclist. That's a page that we put together a number of years ago because we wanted to be able to communicate with local cyclists with information about things that were going on. I'm the sole person who posts stuff there other than maybe interns or other folks. And it's generally just to provide information on local events and activities and information on bicycling in a more global sense. So
there's that, and then there's the new newsletter that CCB's doing. How often does that come out?
yeah.
Twice a month. So we could also promote if there's a topic that we want people to come and provide input on. Those two outlets are pretty good for promoting, and other outlets.
It's more that the city is taking a lead in setting the narrative and not letting everyone else take the narrative and not letting everyone else take the lead. It's saying we take bicycling seriously. It's the same way our city says we take the arts seriously. It's the city saying we take bicycling seriously, we take people taking the bus seriously, we take people walking seriously. The majority of our citizens move in these three modes of transportation the majority of the time, and we take this stuff seriously. And we want to make sure that if you move to this city, or if you're new to our city, or if you've lived here for a long time, and you don't know about the Prairie Cycle Club, hey, here's a link to the Prairie Cycle Club. Do you know about the university, if you're, has this new website? So it's more like taking the lead and saying, here are the resources. It's not so much the city saying, we're going to create a new resource and we're going to do all this new stuff. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, there's a lot of moonlight bike rides. There's all sorts of things, but people generally don't know about them unless they're in the know. So it's more just sort of, yeah, it is kind of a small circle, and it's the same people over and over again. So it's not that the key, which is to expand.
Communicating with each other well.
Yeah, but it's not discovering new stakeholders and engage. And the city. That's why the city is positioned in a good way to do that, because because people first. That's the top.
Mhm.
The city is the top.
So that was a that was a very important reason why we wanted to do a website, so it looked like the university, because bicycling, of course, is very important to us, but you wouldn't have been able to tell that by our web presence, and it was very difficult to communicate these things. I will say that it does help having a bicycle pedestrian coordinator for doing those kinds of things. They could handle social media as well as those kinds of engagement efforts.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think we're asking a lot of our current staff who's focusing. I mean, if you look at what the agenda's been for the last 2 years, as much as I say, hey, we brought this stuff up 2 years ago. If you look at our agendas for the last couple of years, they have been packed. I mean, Craig is like, boom, 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 like trying to push through and get a lot of stuff done. So, I mean, I'm not sure I'm not sure where the city has room for this, but it is definitely a high priority to the people that live here. It's a high priority to visitors. It's going to be a high priority to the folks putting in the hotel, getting people around. People staying at the hotel are not going to know about a moonlight bike ride by somehow finding the Prairie Cycle Club. What they are going to know is if they go to the city, they're like, well, what's at the city of Urbana? Oh my goodness, look at this. Like, I can rent a bike and go ride in the cornfields out and get ice cream. This is amazing. What an amazing city. So it's more that sort of angle.
Okay, thanks. You're also up for item D, comments on the KRT.
There was a VO bike on the Kickapoo Rail Trail on Sunday morning.
How far are they
By
allowed
itself.
to go?
By itself.
Yeah, what happened?
I
That's
don't-
outside the,
yeah,
if you go outside the geofence,
yeah.
does it like automatically lock up?
I don't think
No,
so.
it does not.
It was past Walmart.
No.
Throws you over the handlebars.
No.
Well, my question was, how did they leave from there if they left the bike? I was very curious
So
about that.
this happened earlier, about 3 weeks ago. There was a bike that almost instantaneously ended up on the Kickapoo Rail Trail, and that was the question. What happened? Did someone, out riding the bike, and they were like, you know what I need to do? Run the way back to town or something.
Jog back.
But it was almost instantaneously picked up, and it wasn't picked up by someone in the company. So, which equally is very suspicious. Now, I will say that one was close to Mayview, so like maybe
Somebody there.
someone was like, I'm going to cross the road and go to home or something, but
It was not the same person who dropped it off and took it?
Well, she doesn't have
no.
access.
I don't have access to that information, but also the company, at this point, they were so busy with launching that they didn't really have access to it. It wasn't set up for the community at that point. So they're still working on compiling data for the cities.
It looked like
and
there
the
were still
university.
last time I checked the map, it looked like there were still quite a few in their warehouse. Have they put them all out?
Yeah, no, there's still quite, I think about maybe 50 to 100 in the warehouse. I will say if they held back on those for a little while longer, it would maybe be a little bit helpful because there are so many on campus right now. Need to just
Is there only one vendor at the moment?
There is only one vendor. So some of the vendors that I thought would be also interested in coming, and they said that they were interested after we posted the rules, which is good.
Right.
They were pretty restrictive. So after we posted those rules, we did still have a couple of companies that were like, hey, we're really excited about it. I think that since then, so much is happening nationally with these companies and how they're going to scooters and the scooter market, and we currently do not allow scooters in this market, which I've been getting emails from companies saying, hey, your students are calling us, you should do something, and I'm like, don't come here yet. But
Not yet.
so they did try doing that in Purdue, and it was a huge mess, and I think it's going to be exciting, but so
Let other people make the mistakes.
I think that those companies are right now, their hands are tied with integrating scooters into their really, really large markets like Washington, D.C. and Dallas and
They were all over
big cities.
Hmm.
Yeah, Austin. They're handling those, and scooters they have a couple more complications as far as charging them. A lot of them, they work with businesses and individuals to bring them in at night and charge them. One student riding a VR ride I ran into in Urbana, I asked him about it. He's from California, and he was like, yeah, I was making tons of money each night, like just picking up scooters and charging them, which is great, but at the same time, like, we have to figure out how we can do that here. It's not quite the same.
Okay, Annie.
I just wanted to show a few photos from the Kickapoo Rail Trail because I just adore it. So the other day I was out biking and I didn't have a lot of water on my bike, and my bad. But I arrived in St. Joseph's, and they have put in these beautiful 8-foot wide bike lanes to this nice park that it looks like they're fixing up and doing cool stuff with. And there is a beautiful drinking fountain there you can see for pets if you go out there with your pet, and then for water bottles. And it is just lovely. And this is where you take a right. And then I also wanted to show that the Wheelhouse took away a couple parking spots, which I know is, controversial in Urbana to take away parking spots to put in seating for people. But in St. Joseph's, not only do they have 25-mile-per-hour roads, they have taken away parking spots and put in outdoor seating for all the people coming to the Wheelhouse, because it is at the end of the Kickapoo Rail Trail. And soon it will be paved through St. Joseph's, and it's my understanding there are a few more businesses coming at the end. I believe one involving cold ice cream, not warm ice cream or something. I don't know. I don't live there. I just sort of pick up on things. And then, of course, this is a beautiful photograph of biking back. And then I just wanted to include this picture of what Urbana has at the moment. The Park District has an outhouse. There are real bathrooms, actually, here in St. Joe's, if you need them. But we have, the City of Urbana has, the Park District has an outhouse that is the fancy schmancy bike repair station, and then there's car parking. So that was it.
Okay, thanks. Any comments on that? Okay. Announcements. Anyone have any announcements? Cynthia.
So Walk and Roll to School Day is October 10th this year, and we are working on that. Once again, the Urbana Elementary Schools will be participating. There will probably be some effort to work with some schools like Franklin Middle School in Champaign. Both park districts are doing the applications for infrastructure grants for this round of funding. And so data collection for those schools is important. We have some for Urbana schools, but we haven't done it for middle schools in either city. So mark your calendars. I'll be sending out an invitation to celebrities like elected officials, inviting them to come, and we'll have U of I student athlete teams coming and joining us again. The other thing I wanted to say is that I participated in a webinar about a month ago on the federal government is developing a national bike database. And this is hugely exciting because we have lacked data on a national scale that gives us enough data to, for example, look at crashes based on exposure. In a community our size, it's really hard to do that with the number of crashes that we have, and to look at that and have it have validity. So they're setting that up so that cities and everybody they can not only input crash data, but they can also input their GIS layers for where they have bike infrastructure and bike paths. It's going to be the same way that they now have for submitting data on roadways. So I think that's really hugely exciting. And I looked up the information on the correlation between bicycling rates and crash rates. And actually the crash rates were going down during the recession when miles driven had gone down. And so the crash rate is really tied to, we don't know exactly how this all works yet, but it seems to be very much tied to how many miles vehicle drivers are driving. And so now crash rates for pedestrians and bicyclists have gone back up as they have for everybody. Our crash rates for all roadway users have really gone zoom after people started driving more miles again. So I just think when we get this database, we're going to be able to so much more accurately look at all of this information that's, various cities have been collecting it, and now we'll be able to have it on a larger scale.
And who's in charge of that?
I think I sent it out on the, I think I also posted it on Champaign-Urbana Cyclists, because it's now online. You can go and listen to it. It's the Department of Transportation is
Okay.
doing it, and they hired a consulting
US
firm.
staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've hired a consulting firm who is working through all of the logistics of this, because of course it's a very big, complicated task, and how they set up the system for submission of data and have it be consistent, because of course that's an issue that you have to deal with when you've got hundreds, if not more than that, of users submitting data. So I participated just by listening, and it was very exciting, and I can try and give you all the link to that if you're interested in listening in and watching.
Okay, thanks. Any other announcements? Yeah, Billy.
It's Light the Night on Thursday,
Light the night.
6:30 to 7. The city, I'm sorry, 4:30 to 7.
The social media on that's been great.
It's been amazing, and the university side has been incredible. And also, there's been an uptick in City of Champaign and Urbana advertising, which is
So
fantastic.
4:30 to 7 o'clock. Where
Could certainly be
there's two
better to tell all
locations?
your friends, tell your friends to tell your friends, because the City of Urbana, the City of Champaign, the university, and MTD have all contributed a sizable chunk of money to buy bike lights just to give out for free. Just bring your bicycle. If you don't bring your bicycle,
The two locations, Helene Gateway.
two locations at Illinois in Lincoln Avenue at Helene Gateway, and then Alma Mater.
Okay.
Can't miss it.
The two gateways to campus, I guess, huh?
Get there early. Last year, one location actually really ran out, and then the other location promptly ran out 30 minutes later.
You
So
just show up. You have to have your bike,
And it gets
Have
put on
to.
your bike.
and they will put it on your bike. Okay.
we will, absolutely. So if any of you out there have bicycles and you're thinking, boy, I didn't know I needed to have lights, it'll be way more comfortable for you. You won't get a ticket, and it's free.
And old people can see you, because we lose our night vision, and we really and truly cannot see you.
And young people can see you, because I don't have night vision, so I can't see you.
Other announcements?
I have an announcement. It's okay to, we were at the end of last meeting, we had the discussion about whether you're supposed to walk your bike on a pedestrian walk signal, or you can ride your bike through a pedestrian walk signal. And I got that information, and I forwarded it to Barb to forward to the whole BPAC, but I guess that's not, I thought that's what we were supposed to do to avoid having discussion, but I don't know what the right method is for distributing information like that, was I guess my first question. And then the second thing is you can, when there's a pedestrian walk sign, you can ride your bike. There's nothing. Well, yes, I shouldn't say of course. Yes, you must yield to pedestrians, and I highly recommend biking at the rate the pedestrians are moving, which is about, I think, 4 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour? Between 4 and 8 miles an hour. Yeah, definitely. It is a pedestrian priority space at that time, and you need to respect that, just as you should be respected when you are biking down the street by faster, larger moving vehicles. So, yeah, absolutely. So, but again, if you need to send something to the entire BPAC, should you just email everybody and say there can be no comments on this, or are we supposed to send it to one person?
If it's information only, you can send it to everyone, and just I wouldn't use
BCC?
blind copies, so everybody knows. That way, everybody knows who got it. But I would just use regular copy and just put at the top, "Please do not reply all,"
Okay.
to avoid complications with Open Meeting Act.
Okay.
And as long as you just send out one, it's information only. There's usually no problem with that.
Okay, cool.
I'll comment on that a little bit further, because it's really not Barb that didn't ask to send that out. It was, we were still doing some research on it, trying to gather some information. I did talk to one of our assistant city attorneys and the police chief, and Annie's correct, you know, that you can ride through a crosswalk. I just was asked to remind, though, that bicyclists must always yield to pedestrians if they're on the road or on the sidewalk. Also, when you're on the road, though, you must obey the Illinois Vehicle Code. So what is happening, particularly on campus, is bicyclists are coming up to a red stop and then proceeding through the stop, and when they're in a bike lane, and then going through the pedestrian phase. So that's where there is an issue that's developing out of that. So in those events, there would be citations issued because the bicyclist is on the road acting as a vehicle. So just keep that in mind. If you come up to a red stop, you can't then switch and just say, well, I'm a pedestrian. So those are where the confusion lies.
Yeah, it seems a little tricky. I mean,
When
if
you're on
you,
the side path, you're not on the roadway.
but you also don't want to ride in the pedestrian
Right.
walkway.
I didn't
Alongside of it would make more sense.
Right. I didn't say, though, if you're on a side path, you're on the road. I'm saying they're having problems with bicyclists being in the bike lanes. And then they come up to a stoplight, and then they proceed through the stoplight. That's a violation. That's a traffic code violation.
You mean during the pedestrian scramble?
Yes. Yes. So if you're on the road, you have to obey the traffic laws.
So could you get off your bike and get on the sidewalk?
Yes, you can do that.
And then ride your bike through the, like, so,
Yes. You
So
can't,
what- so what-
basically, they're saying you can't have it both ways. The
so what you can
bicyclist-
do is ride on the sidewalk up Green Street, hit the pedestrian bag light, wait for the pedestrian lead, and then bike through the crosswalk, and then get on the bike path.
Right. But you can't,
That's
you
what I do.
can't violate the Illinois Vehicle Code if you're on the road.
So then what you're supposed to do is, when there's a pedestrian scramble and you're sitting in the green bike box on Goodwin, is you're supposed to stand there while everyone walks around you. Correct?
Well, at that point, I would say if you're inside the stop bars, now you're more like acting like a pedestrian at that point. Because
Well-
you're inside, and that's part of the confusion.
I would like to
It's
point out.
confusion, it's not,
Well,
like,
and I would like to
clear.
point out that the vehicle code also says you may not pass vehicles on the right. And when we're in the bike lane, we are passing vehicles on the right. So the vehicle code is not applied consistently to bicyclists who are using bicycle infrastructure.
I'm just passing information on, Cynthia.
Yes, I'm aware of that, but I think that a good case could be made and that could be challenged. I think that for the pedestrian
Here-
scrambles, I think that in addition to that, for example, transit vehicles, having the bicyclists cleared in the intersection through the scramble is a much safer option and is a much preferable option
Absolutely.
to having the cyclist sit there and wait and
Yep.
then go,
Go at the
because the
same
phasing
time.
is not that long for the buses either.
Yep.
So I think that in terms of enforcement, it would be helpful for law enforcement to take those things into consideration, because we're trying to promote what is most safe on campus, and what is most safe is not to have a
Sensible.
whole bunch of cyclists piled up at the intersections.
Well,
Yeah, I think-
but I can tell you that we have seen video where cyclists are blowing through the red lights on 15 to 20 mile an hour
And
through the
that's not
pedestrian
acceptable.
zones.
Yeah, that-
And that is where we have to be careful. I think the key thing here is predictable behavior,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's the biggest thing, is predictable behavior.
I think it's predictable and respectful. I think all road users should be predictable and respectful, I
Right.
think is really, I think that word gets lost a lot. Because, I mean, I've obviously seen lots of cars blow through red lights on those exact streets, and that's
Right.
obviously illegal as well.
I think
So,
making sure the police understand the issues and that they're using reasonable discretion when they're handing out tickets. I wouldn't object, if somebody is going 10, 15, 20 miles per hour straight through a red light because there's a pedestrian scramble, that's not safe, and it seems like, getting a ticket is, but if they stop first, if they stop at the red light and then continue slowly in the pedestrian scramble, I would be really upset if I got a ticket for that.
Mhm.
So I think as long as the police are using discretion in that sense, I don't think we'll run into any issues.
And I really do think we run into trouble with cyclists not being respectful. As we stated earlier, cyclists are not killing anyone. They're not hurting people. But it's upsetting. It's like when I'm biking down Washington and someone blows by me at 55 miles an hour. They're not hurting me, but it's upsetting, and it makes me not want to be there. And so I think it's all about all of us trying to figure out how to be respectful to each other, even though you can. I mean, I think as a younger cyclist, I often made that mistake. I knew I could bike really fast through things, and I knew, and I did, and I was a jerk, and I'll admit that. And so it took me a while to figure out that I shouldn't do that, because it's just, even though I'm alive and I'm fine and I'm not hurt and I'm not hurting anyone else, that's still not the right way to bike, drive, or walk, or any of that. Yeah.
Okay, any other announcements?
So I have, since I'm the bearer of more news, we did do, had some discussions about the yellow curb that Nancy had brought up. I'll just be straight with you, the resources are not there to paint yellow curbs. We are not in an expansion mode of services. We are in actually a reduction mode of services at the city. So I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to paint yellow curbs. We do look at the minimum as far as the American Disabilities Act. That component is not a compliant or a portion of the American Disabilities Act. So we're not going to be able to paint the yellow curbs at the intersections. So.
Okay.
Well, there's also a maintenance component to that. The question for those that couldn't hear was, could we put it in when we build a new intersection? But again, we then have to come back and maintain those. We have quit painting yellow curbs even at parking. We used to do that at no parking. We haven't done those for a decade now. They are just fading out. We still get requests, but we are in a reduction of services. I'm sorry, it's just the facts of what we deal with at the city. So.
Any other announcements? Okay, we have a list of future topics. And did we already, I forget, did we select some of these already for next month?
I believe item D, Kevin had mentioned that he could talk
That's
about
right.
that one for sure. I was thinking A and B, perhaps, if Annie was ready, is what I recalled from my notes. But if you don't, right.
No, I'm happy. I don't want to dominate at all. I'm happy to do that.
And when will you be able to give us any information on the results of the speed reduction?
I should be able to do that in October as well.
Oh, that would be
Okay.
great. That would be great. Yeah.
Are there additional future topics people want to get on the schedule in the next few months?
I think we probably need to take up the Vision Zero now that we've had the statistics presented.
Okay, that'll probably be November, Vision Zero in November, or we'll put it on the list.
Yeah, at some point, we'll also be circling back around with the bicycle wayfinding plan and the pedestrian master plan. So those will be other topics that will be coming up here in the winter period. I'd like to close out, particularly staff wants to close both of these items out, get approvals, so we can then start working on implementation, particularly for the wayfinding plan.
When I meet with Dr. Owen, I'll talk about the equity in education. I'm not sure when I can schedule that.
Okay, after you meet with Dr. Owen. Okay. Anything else? If the renovation on University Avenue, that's
It's
scheduled for
still,
next
it's scheduled for next year. They're still
summer.
in the acquisition of property phase. But as far as I understand it, it's they're going to open bids in the winter, and then it would be all next year. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all very much. We're adjourned.